The Audacity of She. Incisive conversations with women who are challenging the status quo to create wildly fulfilling lives. Plus, practical information you can apply to your life right now. Greetings. I hope you are doing so well. I am excited to be here with you today. For this conversation, I got together with my friend Jenny Joy. Jenny is a mom and an entrepreneur who lives in Orlando, Florida. She scaled her company, Ruby Red Cleaning, from $3,600 in annual revenue to a little over $400,000 in just a couple of years. In this episode, you'll learn how she went from accidental homeschool mom to serious homeschool mom to entrepreneur. We talk about the big life changes that challenged her into each new space, how she handled the huge transitions and the ebbs and flows, and we talk about what it looks like to push past massive fear to create the life that makes you feel good. Jenny told me about this surreal moment where time stood still for her and her world shifted. She realized for the first time that her happiness is a factor that should be considered. If you've ever realized that you're less than happy in your life and that there's an opportunity for more, then you know what a powerful moment that is. We also talk about life as both a rosebush and a labyrinth, continuing to face your fears, choosing curiosity as a response to fear, and switching into the essence of who we are. It was such an inspiring conversation, and I'm really excited to share this with you. So enjoy, and I will catch you on the other side. Jenny, greetings.
Hey, Dana.
How are you?
I am doing really well. I am really excited to talk with you today and figure out what we discover together.
Great, likewise. I've been really looking forward to this conversation. I think I say that at the beginning of each of these conversations, but it's really true.
I can see that.
Well, thank you. Okay, so I think we'll start right at the top. I met you when we did Todd Herman's 90-day year together, and I was really drawn to this picture of you sitting on a bench for your business. And I was like, that woman is really on it. And you mentioned in there that your sales within your business went from around $3,000 to like $400,000 in a pretty short period of time. Yes?
Yes, that is wildly true. When I think about it, I don't think about that often, but then when I actually go back and look at it, I do think, oh my goodness, that's kind of crazy.
That is crazy. Is it something that you knew you wanted to do with your business?
That I wanted it to grow that fast, or that I wanted to start the business?
That you wanted it to grow that fast or that big, either one, both?
Oh, yeah. Yes. I knew I wanted to grow it fast. My wild goal was I wanted to hit 1 million in 3 years, I think was my initial goal. Because I'd seen another woman do that with her business. She told me anyway that she had grown her business, I think in 2 or 3 years, from nothing to 1 million. And I thought, oh my gosh, wow, I could just follow her and do what she did. And I'm sure I could do that too, and just because I thought having a big goal would inspire me, and which it did. But as I dug beneath the surface and got to know her, I realized that whole, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is sort of thing was going on. And she was doing a ton of illegal stuff that I was never going to be willing to do in order to grow that fast. So I decided to kind of take the slower route so I could sleep at night and feel like I was doing things the right way. And so I didn't quite hit my goal, but I still am very proud of what I accomplished.
Yeah, I would say that $400,000 is nothing to scoff at.
Right, that's true.
And you did this, you used to be a homeschooling mom. So is that like your full-time thing then, or were you doing business at that time?
No, I never intended to be a homeschool mom. Let me just say that. I was homeschooled as a child for a few years, and which I did love. But I loved going back to school as well. And I just thought, I'm never going to do that when I have kids. But at the time, um, my children, my then husband's work schedule made it so that he really couldn't see the kids except on the weekends. Because by the time they went to school, he went to work, they were in bed because they were little, and he would come home from work and they just weren't seeing their dad. And so I thought, well, maybe if we homeschool, we can have the mornings together and they can spend time with their dad. And so that's why I started homeschooling, not because I was this inspired homeschool mom. It really was just a functional thing. And I did have a phone call with the school that they were supposed to go to. And I said, if this doesn't work out and we hate each other in a week, I can bring them back, right? And they assured me that I could. And so that was the only reason I actually did it.
That's really funny. How long did you homeschool for?
Um, my older son started in second grade and he actually went all the way through eighth grade. Although
Wow.
yeah, although I'll say that during his middle school years, seventh, eighth, I had tutors that worked with him. I really did not have anything to do with the homeschooling other than just kind of check in, make sure things were going well. Because at that point, I was so in deep with my business, there was no way I could do both at the same time. There was just no way. And then my younger son went from kindergarten through middle of fifth grade. In the middle of fifth grade, he came to me and said, Mom, this isn't working for me. Like, I need to
Hmm.
go to school. So we immediately, I took action on that immediately and said, okay, let's figure it out. So
That's
he switched.
really impressive. After my little guy was gone, was born, we
Hmm.
decided to homeschool my daughter, and we didn't technically homeschool her. We went through this program called K-12. So it was like schooling online, and the parent was supposed to just be the assistant, and the teacher was supposed to be the teacher. But I found it like the complete reverse, and we were working all day, every day, and like totally failing. So I think we made it like from the beginning of a school year until like near Thanksgiving. It was not long at all.
Yeah, well, those programs are actually some of the most intense. That's one of the most intense versions of homeschool you can do. And
Hmm.
somebody suggested that to me, and I was like, oh no, 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 I'm way too lazy for that. I cannot. We need some nobody's watching. I need I need complete like license to be like, we are not doing school today. We're going to the park. Mommy needs a break.
Huh. Yeah, that's perfect. If we wanted her to have like this loose lifestyle where she could do like all of these other things. And I was like, we're literally working from like sun up to sundown and we're like so far behind. I'm horrible
Yeah.
at this.
No, it's those programs. That's exactly every single person I know who's done those programs had the same feedback. They're like, this is just so intense. I'm like, you gotta take the lazy mom's way. Like, don't do that stuff. That's way too much work.
Huh. That's funny.
Oh.
Okay, so you had them, your oldest son, he switched to going to a regular school because you were busy working. So that means you launched your business somewhere in there.
Well, gosh, I haven't done the timeline in a while. 2012 is when I made the decision, and I really use that word lightly. I felt like I was kind of dragged kicking and screaming, or was the way I experienced it was like, I have to do this. I don't want to do this, but I have to do it. And I really did just cry myself to sleep so many times, you know, starting my business because I was away from my kids. I went from homeschooling them and being with them. And really, I ended up really enjoying homeschooling and all that whole journey. And I had such a close relationship with my kids. And so to convert over into the launching and startup of a business was just, it was sort of brutal because
Mm,
it was such a shift. And it was really, really hard because I was still kind of one foot in both worlds.
mm.
And so, anyway, yeah, my kids were 12 and 10 when I started, and now they're 16 and 14. So, yeah.
Okay. And were you still married at that time?
Yep. I
Wow.
was, I was very married and very realizing that I was probably not going to be married much longer. And that is,
Oh, so that was your incentive for scaling quickly?
yes, yes.
Ah.
Well, and also the other reason was because I didn't want to be sort of in the underwater. I wanted to get there quickly because I wanted to get back to my kids. That was my I don't want this to take forever because I don't want to be away from my kids like this. And it was just sort of this, yeah, that's what was in my mind. I really thought, oh, I'll just do this real quick.
Do you have the space that you thought you would have now?
Now I do, yeah, but it's been 4.5 years.
Sure.
So, you know, it by no means happened overnight at all. And I still have a lot of work to do. I mean, I'm not where I want to be. I mean, I'm hitting some really awesome goals now, um, but yeah, I definitely still have work to do. So my whole little 2-year thing was not a reality.
That's okay, though. It never quite works how we think it's going to.
Nope. And I've gotten way more comfortable with that.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so have I. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes life a lot better.
Hmm. Okay, so let me see. If you scaled from three to 400,000 that quickly, that means that you had to bring in a pretty sizable team, at least a couple of people to help you out, right?
Yeah. So what I did is I I hired 2 people to clean and I trained them. So I I was in houses scrubbing and training and teaching them, what I knew. And I had this little method that I'd learned from this other person that I had taught me about her cleaning business. She'd been in business for like 30 years. She was a mentor. She was an amazing woman. Um, and so I was doing that, still homeschooling my kids, you know, trying to get business, answering phone calls, creating a website, launching a Facebook page, trying to figure out how to get an EIN number, just all those things, at the same time. So yeah, it was pretty intense. But yeah, I hired 2 people and then scaled up to 3 or 4. You can do a lot with just a few employees in this business. So
Huh. And you knew that you wanted to scale and be a leader because that's a big transition too.
it is. And I would say that that has been my biggest hurdle. I mean, learning how, I think transitioning out of my personal life into a role as a boss and understanding that I don't just get to be me. Like I have a role to fulfill, and that's different than any other role I play in my life. And the way that I have to be in that role, my tasks, my mindset, my actions, all of those things. I mean, that was a big learning curve for me because I don't have a resume. I got out of college. I sort of worked a little bit for a year, had a baby, stayed home, and did that for, you know, 13 years. And then I started my business.
Wow. Wow, that is such a huge leap. So you
Yeah.
kind of experienced these multiple leaps at the same time. Was it kind of mind bending? Because at the same time you realized that you were in a relationship that would likely not work out and that you wanted to scale this business really quickly.
hmm Oh my
That
goodness.
seems
Mind
like,
bending is such a lovely way to put that.
hmm,
I would probably use a totally different choice word.
what would your choice word be?
A mind bleep.
That's fair.
um, it was, I don't know. The way that I affectionately refer to it is I burned my life down. I just burned my life down. And when I realized I was trying to start the business in a way that would allow for space for my marriage to be reborn, I really was trying to create a little more room, at the same time, create a way of exit if I needed it. But I
Hmm.
really, in the moment when I was starting it, I thought, oh gosh, I don't want to do this. I want things to work out, but I can't be naive here. So if it works out, great. We have another source of income. Awesome. If it doesn't, then I can take care of myself and my kids and I can figure it out. I can figure out a new life for myself. So that's really what I was doing. I in no way, like ran jumping and leaping for joy out of my marriage. It wasn't like that at all. It was a shredding of self. It was a shredding of an entire life of, you know, dreams and hopes and all that stuff. It was really sad. It was really, really hard. But yeah, all of that was happening at one time. It was, whew, it was extremely intense.
Yeah, I
So
can only imagine. And it must have been hard to let go of all these facets of yourself that you're shedding at one time to so quickly become this new vision.
yes, and that is so true. And really, you know, when you go into it, you have a tiny bit of like, I kind of figure this is going to be hard. You know, that's about all you know.
Hmm.
Because I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I didn't know what not easy meant at that time. But I think it's really good that we don't know, because I don't know that we would ever do it,
Hmm.
you know? So it's a gift not knowing. Um, but I think the only way that I was able to do it was gathering support and people around me and being willing to completely open my mind and my heart to new ways of thinking and being that would support whatever was coming down the pike.
Hmm. Even if you didn't know exactly what that was.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. Hmm.
So who you have become today, did you see this woman as like a vision in your mind, or are you different than what you thought it might be like? Or did you just not know what to expect at all?
That's a really good question. It's interesting. I came across a journal the other day that I wrote back in 2012, right before I decided to start my business. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I had this. And I read it and I just wanted to give my little self a hug, because I read myself saying, I really just think there's more to life than what I'm living.
Mm.
And I thought, and I wrote in there, I think that if I just push into this, there's something more on the other side of it. I just
Mm.
don't know what it looks like. And I don't know what it is, but I really sense that there's more.
Huh.
But it was on the other side of massive fear. And that was the thing I was having to push past and push into and push through. And so, yeah, I don't think I had a vision. I don't think I could imagine that far. I think all I knew was, holy moly, this is not working. I need to practically figure out a way to salvage myself and get myself in a different boat. You know, it was really just about survival. It
Mm.
wasn't really like I had this, I'm going to become this amazing woman. You know, it wasn't, I didn't have anything like that. It was just more like, holy moly, I think this boat is sinking. I need a different one. You know, so I know I didn't have a vision, but when I look back, I, I realize I could not have imagined who I've become. There's no way, no way.
Huh.
Uh-uh.
Huh.
And
Yeah, I
maybe
think
other people do it differently. You know, maybe other people see like, oh, you know, I want to become this, and they kind of like chart their path. But I was just so under it. I just thought, not this, something else, and went for it.
how long did it take you to decide that life wouldn't work? Because obviously we build these ideas in our minds. Like one of my friends, Lara, who I had a conversation with for the show too, she had studied finance and had this amazing job in New York doing like exactly the things she wanted to do. But she was so unhappy with what she created, but it took her a little while to be able to let go of this life that wasn't making her happy. I think because we end up with all these reasons, it's just not the life that we thought we were going to live. And how do we I don't know. I think you feel wrong for building something that wasn't right or wrong for not being happy with a good life. And I don't know, like, so I guess my question is just how long did it take you to realize that that really isn't what you wanted and then to move into this new thing that obviously looked really big and scary?
Wow, that's such a great question. um, I remember the moment where I think the new thought or insight came in that really pushed me over the edge. I had already started my business. I was really trying to make my marriage work. I mean, I was trying so hard. Um, and it was probably like, I think it was about a year and a half, maybe 2 years in. Yep. It was about 2 years in, and things were kind of dissolving again. This pattern was occurring once again. And I had told myself, if I ever see this pattern emerge again, I cannot do this,
Mm.
in my, and so somebody looked at me and said, you know, they were telling me their story, and they said, I realized that if I stayed in this relationship, I would never be happy. Like, it just wasn't an option. It wasn't a possibility because of the patterns in this relationship. And I knew that I had to leave the relationship in order to move on with my life and be able to become what I wanted to become. It was sort of that kind of conversation. And I remember it was the weirdest moment. It was like time stood still. I felt like the birds went in slow motion.
Mm.
It was a weird moment, but I think it was such a shift almost, maybe in my vibration or something. I don't know. But it was like a brand new thought occurred to me, which was, oh, happiness is a factor
Mm.
that should be considered.
Mm.
I literally, because of the way I was raised, sort of the religious upbringing that I had, and a lot of different factors, that was never something important, like not something to be considered. My own well being, my own happiness, my own life of my own soul was not a factor. That was something that you just set aside and sacrifice for the sake of principle and duty and all those things. And in that moment, that literally was just like a big, huge rock in my pond, and it was just rippled out.
Mm.
And that was really what made me say, okay, I have got to start moving out of this relationship, and I've got to start building my life. And when that did, then I started behaving differently in my relationship, having different conversations, having different, um, interactions, and then it started imploding.
Uh-huh.
You know, it imploded very rapidly after that.
Wow. Wow. And
Yeah.
that's kind of after that rebirth, like once you let this new person just kind of, well, maybe you didn't even let the new person, but once this new person just kind of burst through with all these different ideas and perspective all her own.
Yeah. And it's funny because the thing that started it was, oh, wow, I need to consider my own happiness. And, and immediately following, I was deeply unhappy
Hmm.
because, because just like any good calling, like the whole Joseph Campbell thing, you get called into what's next and you go straight into the pit.
Yeah.
That's the next step, into the pit where you churn and you gain everything you need for your journey and for your transformation. And then you pop up, you
So
know?
how long do you think it took? Because you look pretty darn popped up now. How long do you think it took you before things started to really feel like now I'm at this place that I feel like the person that I saw?
um, the word is not coming to me right now. It's not a maze. Not a mandala, a labyrinth. It is
Mm-hmm.
my journey from that point until now, I have experienced as a labyrinth. So when you walk in a labyrinth, you're walking on a set path. It's not a maze. It's not meant to be confusing. There is only one way to get to the center. So you just follow the path. But it's a meandering path, and sometimes you're close to the center, and then you take the next turn and you go all the way back out to the outer ring again. And
Mm.
you walk, and then you go in, and then you go back out, and then you come in. And then unexpectedly, you kind of dump into the center
Mm.
and you just pop out. And I would say that that is very much how I've experienced it. I mean, there has been no point of arrival, but I have been closer to the center. I've been yanked back out. I know it sounds cheesy, but I've really gotten more comfortable with the love of the journey,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah, I think it's something you have to experience. I know I've spent so much time where I feel like I'm kind of like dancing around this like truest version of myself where I just see so
Mm.
clearly and it's just me. And I used to
Mhm.
get so frustrated and try to like maintain that space all the time. And I think just very recently I decided that I just don't need to be there all the time, at least not right now, because it isn't about like getting to this destination and then, wow, I'm just perfectly me for the entire rest of my life. Like there's supposed to be those ebbs and flows, or at least that's how I get it right now.
Yeah, that's a really great way to put it. I think the way that I see it, in addition to the labyrinth gives me hope. When I feel like I've been flung all the way back out and I've lost my, it feels like I've lost my way. I'm like, no, I'm just in the labyrinth. I never know what
Mm,
the next turn's going to be, you know.
hmm
That always helps me. The other way, though, that I would say, kind of what you're saying, is, you know, you are a rose bush, right? Nobody can change that. And sometimes the rose is in bloom, sometimes it is not, but it is still the rose. Like, it doesn't matter if you're in, there's going to be moments in our lives that are like, whoa, look at that. There is that rose bush is just covered in blooms.
mm,
And there's other times where it's, oh my goodness, look at all those buds. I can't wait to see that, you know, but and that's part of the beauty of it is that we get to kind of anticipate the next set of buds or the next set of blooms, or we get to watch it unfold. But we're still us. It's still in there. And that
yeah,
helps me.
yeah, absolutely. So is that kind of what that sounds like that's kind of your guiding principle as you're navigating your ebbs and flows? Because you don't get to this point, like as far as you've come and as amazing as you are, like I don't think any of us get to this point where we're just like, oh yeah, now we're just done. So is that kind of what is that like a guiding principle that helps you to navigate those ups and downs and ins and outs?
Yeah, I think the only time that when I say that I'm done, it's more like I am completely exhausted. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm sick of facing my fears. I'm just done. You know, I mean, I feel myself say those things, but no, in my heart of hearts, I will never be done. I mean, I've already got like three other things that I really want to create in the world. And I think it gets more and more exciting the more comfortable we get with the ebbs and flows, kind of what you're talking about, but being in touch with who we really are, the essence of us as women. And you know, and who we are as creators and, you know, all that mystery that's inside of us. The more we get comfortable with that, the more I think the creativity opens and you get to go, ooh, what next? You
Mm,
know, when you get to choose and you get more comfortable choosing curiosity over fear, you know, it's that journey that matters. The fear never goes away. It's just that you get better at choosing the curiosity instead, you know.
mm.
So I think it just gets, yeah, no, I don't think I'll ever be done. I hope I'm never done.
Well,
I'm
you have big projects now. Like, what do you want to do with the cleaning business?
yes. Well, the cleaning business, I would like to. I've changed my goal. I don't want to make it into $1 million business. I mean, I say that now. You talk to me in 6 months, I might say something else. But right now, um, I want to get it to my next revenue goal, which is under 1 million. Um, because I realized that the $1 million mark had been my inspiration to get me to think big and dream big and take massive action, which was great,
hmm
super helpful. But now I've noticed in the last probably 3 to 6 months that that has switched over to an ego thing, and I've been using that as a way to feel like I belong in the room.
Mm,
Oh, I'm going to build $1 million business. You know, it kind of turned from inspiration into I'm worthy to be in this room and have this conversation with these amazing, badass entrepreneurs because I'm going to have $1 million business. You know, I don't know. I kind of felt into that and I realized, oh, you know what? I don't need that anymore. I can build it to this level and that will take care of me and accomplish what I need it to do. And then I can pivot into things that are closer to my heart, you know, that I really want to do in the world. So that's kind of been a cool shift. And it's relieved me a lot. It's taken a lot of pressure off, and I've had a lot more fun in my business since I've let go of that thing that was an inspiration but turned into an ego thing.
mm.
So,
And you
yeah.
know, if you're in the room, then you're supposed to be there. You don't have to do anything else to be there.
Yeah, I'm still getting comfortable with that. I definitely don't feel that way.
Oh, that's been a huge one for me. I'm just telling you this because I really look up to you a lot. I really respect you. And then when I speak with you and we have kind of these conversations on the same level, I think, well, oh, but I haven't even climbed to 400,000 in sales yet. So I guess I must be good enough to talk to her, even though I haven't. I think we all kind of go through that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because and that's what I love about having conversations with women. Nothing against men, but like
Hmm.
I love having conversations with women because I think that we more easily switch into the essence of who we are and we're able to let go of the scaffolding of what we've accomplished.
Mm.
And we can connect. I don't even like to use the word level, but like on the level that you and I resonate because we are who we are. It has nothing to do with numbers or, all that stuff. It's how we've chosen to be. It's not what we've done. And I love that about every conversation we've had together is I always feel inspired, leveled up, like ready to go, all that kind of stuff. And even though we do very different things. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's
absolutely
cool.
the same. I think I already told you before we hit record, but every time we talk, I just leave the conversation in such an elevated state. And I don't know, I think that comes when you connect with the like-minded people and then have those inspiring conversations. Not that
Yes.
we're like trying to have an inspiring conversation, but it just ends up that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Very naturally. And I love it.
Yeah, so do I. Okay, so then when we talk about creating space in your business for other things, what's on the horizon? Do you want to talk about it?
Sure.
You
Um,
don't have to now if you don't want to.
well, I would like to start a podcast and follow in your footsteps. Um, I really am passionate about parenting. And since becoming an entrepreneur, I've seen a connection between the two that I feel like is not being presented out in the world. So I really would like to, like you, have these fun conversations with people and, find another way to light the path for parents out there. So, and really, selfishly, I just want to have the conversation. So I need an excuse to do it. So,
Yes,
uh,
me too.
so a podcast felt like a great ruse to call people and say, "Will you talk to me?"
Yes, 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 yes. But if you want it, it's for a really good reason. And I love the idea of having these conversations about entrepreneurship and parenting because it's an incredible task to mindfully parent young children.
Mm,
And I think for me, it's hard not to be like a dictator, to give them space to become, but while also like trying to provide perspective where I can. Like that's my tricky dance. And then mixing that with running a business and having new things that I want to birth within this business, like this podcast this year. And I feel like keeping up with all of it sometimes, like I'm just like sprinting from thing to thing, hoping that I'm like doing it right or doing it justice. So I think there's so much you can talk about in that realm.
yes. And yes, that I'm very excited to discover and also just hear. I mean, just what you just said is super encouraging because I feel the same way.
Hmm.
I just half the time I feel like, I dropped that ball again, or, and I have all these expectations of myself. But, I think one thing I've really learned is I've come out of isolation as a person through my business and what it has required of me. I have had to have supporting relationships or else I would never make it. So I think that there is an inherent loneliness in being an entrepreneur. And I think that's why we gather together because we're just sort of like, you too? Okay, good.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
I think there's a quiet loneliness in being a parent as well. It happens between our four walls, and I think that's why there is all the mommy blogs and the podcasts telling all our crazy stories about the mess of parenting and all that stuff. So I think bringing those two arenas of loneliness and hard work and just really facing reality and those two tasks force you to face yourself in ways that nothing else does. So I think it would just be neat. I want to see the Venn diagram of that is really what I'm trying to do. So
Yeah, I remember when we had our first conversation and you were talking about these things you wanted to do with Infusionsoft and how you had mapped it all out on your wall. I was like, she is so thorough. So I imagine you'll have that Venn diagram in the near future.
yes, yes, yes. Now that I've said it out loud, I'll have to do
I'll be expecting a picture.
it.
Well, that's really great. I don't think I really have any other questions. I think that is so great. let's see, I want to give people a way to connect with you, but the podcast isn't live yet. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, find out when the podcast comes out, that type of stuff, how would they do that right now?
Gosh, I should have like some sort of page. You can just email me.
Okay, cool.
I'm fine with people emailing me.
Share your email address.
You're fine. It is hello jennyjoy@gmail.com.
Okay, great. Jenny, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you. Thanks for being in the trenches with me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, have a good day, Jenny.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Did today's topic inspire you, encourage you, or challenge you to look at your own processes in a different way? Join us in our Facebook group to continue the conversation. It's where all the good stuff happens after the show. It's theaudacityofshe.com/Facebook. Again, that's theaudacityofshe.com/Facebook. See you there.